Hello, welcome to Kidlit Tuesdays. My name is Mandah Swift, and I'm here with Melissa Hudson. And today, this month, we are going to be covering a Kidlit topic, tips for markets and fairs. And just to share a little bit about myself, so I'm a children's book illustrator, and I have three published children's books that I've worked with authors on in the last few years, and then two more releasing or expecting release this year, and then six more lined up for next year, including one of my own. And then I live in Ohio with my husband, my kids, and my dogs. So, and I've had quite a few markets that I have gone to, not necessarily for books, but I used to do more of like hand painted art, so I have experience with that. And I also gone to some book fairs and those types of events. And then Melissa also has that experience. So Melissa, why don't you introduce yourself as well?
Hi. My name is Melissa Hudson, and I have done a couple of children's books as an illustrator. I have also written and illustrated a full-length graphic novel, and I have done several different comic books, including one that is due out by the end of the year. I also do a lot of book cover illustrations and one-offs. My experience with markets and fairs has mostly been conventions, though I have done some smaller markets. And the conventions I've done have typically been on the smaller side. So,
Awesome. Well, we don't claim to be like experts in this, but we definitely want to be able to share the information and knowledge that we do have, as if you go even to one type of event, a lot of that is transferable knowledge into other types of events. And so what we're going to focus on today for markets and fairs, like book fairs, is what to expect, how to prepare, and how to get the most out of it. So those are the main three categories that we have. Each one is different. Even year to year. Like I had one last year that I did. That's a local market. It's an outdoor market. Did amazing. It was like, I love going to that one each year. And then this year it was so incredibly hot that like it was a dead zone. Like there was hardly anybody there. So especially outdoor, but just in general, like from year to year, you can't like predict and be sure like how that event's going to do. So just kind of expect it may not be what you expect. So it can really help too if you visit or if you've gone to that event beforehand. So if you've gone to that convention or fair, that market, whatever it may be, whatever event it is, because sometimes you can go to uh like even like concerts or whatever. Like there's all different types of places you could be a vendor at depending on your book subject matter, right? So if you go there ahead of time, if that's possible, or if you have time to do that and wait, until the next one to be a vendor, that can really help you to know, like, hey, do you see your target market there? How much space do you really have? Like, what is it typically like in the shade, or are there a lot of the booths or tables out in the sun, or is
oh
it
gosh,
really crowded?
I
So
went to one once that was in a converted ice skating rink. So it was a skate rink most of the time, but they had an
wow,
artificial floor they could put down for events. And it
yeah.
was freezing in there. And you would never have like it wasn't something you'd have thought about in advance, but oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's something good to
Should have worn
plan for.
gloves. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're able to go ahead of time and then wait for the next event that they do to actually be having a booth or table with them, that can help out so much. Like I remember going into my first shows in 2019 before everything shut down. I did like 50 shows and like I had no idea at the beginning what I was doing. I mean, I did a lot of research, but like I didn't really know what to expect, and I had a lot of like nervousness because I'm an anxiety person anyway, but
Oh
like
yeah.
you don't know what to expect. Like you don't know how it feels or like what it's going to be like, how much sales would I get? So you just basically plan for the best and prepare for the worst. So, you can plan that you're going to get a lot of sales, but then expect maybe you're not going to get so much sales. So, when you're considering which one to even do or that sort of stuff, you have to consider things might not go the way you plan. I even had one where we ended up having a tornado siren go off in the middle of it. Like it
Oh.
was intense and like my stuff, the wind knocked over. my wooden ornaments. So some of them got damaged because they got water on them. We had to go run into some underneath some bleachers, and I didn't feel very safe at all because I'm like, this is all metal. I hope it's grounded.
Yeah.
Like, what if it? Thankfully, it was nothing. Ohio doesn't really get much in Columbus, Ohio, I should say. Doesn't get many at all, like ever. But it was definitely crazy, right? So
Yeah.
anything could happen. Again, it could just be a strong winds that day, could be rain, could be whatever. And so just kind of anticipate different things can happen. And then sometimes you can't really plan for everything, right? I couldn't plan for that tornado siren to go off. And you also can't plan that, everything else. So just sometimes you just got to jump in there and do it. You don't need to go, be too cautious. Sometimes better just to go ahead and do it. So, um, some things to you can expect is, well, these are some of the ones I went over. So you could meet some really amazing people. So I know people worry about like whether people are mean or rude. Those are people are so rare. Just be nice,
Yeah,
let them move on, right? Have you had any, Melissa?
I've never had anybody come and be intentionally mean or rude to me. So,
Yes, it's
and
really, really rare. I had one that was like, well, I was at uh like out of school, and it was a lot of them just selling like baby items and clothes, but they also allowed craft vendors to be there. So since I did art and stuff, on like I didn't do like fine art and big things because I wanted to be more accessible to people. So I did like ornaments and little art and stuff. And I had to written 25 with no dollar symbol because I knew from my marketing and sales experience before that if you put a dollar symbol, um, that can make it seem more like money to people. So I just had 25 on there. And the lady came up and said, gave me a whole pile of them. And I thought, wow, she's going to buy so many. This is great. And then she gave me quarters.
oh,
And then she tried to play that, her kid is really into, like she tried to play the kid card. And I'm like, no, sorry, I can't sell them for
yeah,
quarters. These are hand painted ornaments. So
yeah. Oh
I spent a
gosh.
lot of time on them. But that was probably the worst I've ever had. And that wasn't, I felt like she was kind of
Yeah.
trying to play me, but she wasn't
Hmm.
intentionally like mean or rude, like really
Hmm.
badly or anything. And she quickly was like, okay, fine, and left. So not a big deal. But you will meet some really awesome people. So many, like even if they don't buy anything, some people are just so sweet and kind. And I know that I've had people come back year after year too. Oh, what do you have this year and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
love
really,
that.
really nice because when you're doing art or you're writing, depending if you're the illustrator or author going to these events, um, you're kind of isolated in a way. And so this is allowing you to like kind of connect with people and see their reactions and have, some appreciation for all the hard work that you've done. So I know like I had books at that my last event, even though it wasn't very successful because nobody was there, the people that did come were just so supportive and so nice. So yeah, that's always I love.
Yeah.
Um, and how to prepare is kind of the next thing. So um I'm a planner, like typically. So I had like a whole spreadsheet with the key information, and I would gather as much as I could. You couldn't always gather everything from every event, but as much as I could glean from each event that I was considering, I made a huge spreadsheet because there's actually a lot of them in Columbus, Ohio area. It's a bigger city. You may not have as many in your area, because especially after pandemic, it kind of, I think Melissa, you had mentioned a good point that uh there's just some of them don't come back like after the pandemic. So you might have less in your area, but the ones that you do have, definitely get some key information and figuring out your display setup, ways to accept payments, and then what products to offer are like really key to being prepared. Um, so here's like some key information. Melissa, is there anything on here in particular that you find the most helpful? Like, is there, maybe your top three or something? 'Cause there's a lot here, but
Um, yeah, gosh, I would say
I know I'm putting her on the spot, so
no, it's fine. I was remembering one time one of them threw me by requiring that I had a business license before I tabled,
mm,
and I had to fill out sales tax paperwork with the state before I could apply for a table. And that one that one really threw me. I did not know in advance that I was going to have to do that. And I haven't encountered it again since. So I
Yeah.
don't know how common that is, but
But there could be some weird things like that. I know sometimes
yeah.
they want you to have like a raffle item. I hate those ones.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
or it might be that like you're required to do like a even like insurance. You have to
Hmm.
show proof of that, which sometimes like now I would only get insurance just for that event only. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily just have that like on hand because I would just once I'm approved for an event, then I would get the insurance. But if they require it, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't just. I used to just buy insurance because I was doing 50 that one year. So of course I'm like I'm just going to pay for
Yeah,
the
you hit
year.
it hard. I did not go that intense. I think the primary things I looked at because I wasn't sure how well I was going to sell and I was really concerned with the upfront cost because you're not only you're paying for all of your own merchandise, right? So you have the upfront cost of all of your own materials and everything. And if you don't make sales, you can be out quite a bit of money on that initial investment trying to get started. And so I would say I think the first things I looked at were the fees associated with just having a table at that convention. And that was the kind of yardstick I would go by whether or not I wanted to invest in paying the table fee, paying the internet access fee, paying, oh my gosh, they would have, if you wanted power to your booth, then you had to pay
Hmm.
extra for that. If and it can really add up fast, especially, on top of the cost of having your own materials, the cost of,
Traveling there,
what,
even if it's just gas, like you still
yeah,
have to pay to
exactly.
get
Then
there
paying
and
for parking and, so
food
if they
and
want,
yeah.
I've seen some conventions charge hundreds of dollars just for a table fee. And
Mhm.
and then if you want internet, that would be another 75 or 100 per day. And it
Which is
can
a
it can
ripoff.
be, yeah. Well, yeah, it's certainly, yeah. It's like that was my
Like,
make
come
or
on.
break
I don't
usually
even
was
pay that much per month. Like,
right. So the smaller places were usually not so exploitative about that. And so I think that was kind of those were the things I looked at first to decide whether or not I thought it was going to be worth it.
yeah, definitely. I put all costs associated because yeah, there can be
Yeah.
a myriad of costs depending on the different event and what options they have, and again, how big or small they are. The bigger they are, the more fees there tends to be with every little thing, and the smaller they are, then there's usually less fees. Like even church ones have very little fees, very small table fees. Just to kind of get your feet wet, that's a great one to start. Like little ones like that, little community ones are a great way because you're not going to have all those extra expenses typically.
Mhm.
And the costs you do have are usually quite low, and it's a lot more forgiving in terms of like your table setup. They're not going to expect a professional
Yeah.
fully decked out one because some of them have very strict rules on like even the type of pop-up tent that you have, what color it is. So like if you were to buy, a brightly colored one because that goes with your children's book, and then they're like, no, you have to have white. You're like, now I have to buy or rent another one or like loan it from somebody. So
Right.
yeah, there can be like a lot of stringent stuff the bigger they are because they're thinking more liability and like, they know that it's more sought after, it's usually higher attendance. So, there's also things like they have to pay for like security and like permits and things like that too. So it's not like they're just ripping you off, but like some things I think it's a little ludicrous. So
Yeah.
like the Wi-Fi fee, for example.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I would say for me, besides the pricing, it's kind of figuring out like for some of them, like are they allowing just like anybody? Are they selective? How are they advertising? How much are they advertising? Who are they advertising to? Because it's really important. Like you could go to a really nice event and none of your target market's there, so nobody's interested in what you have.
Mhm.
Um, so it's really important to think about like who is actually going to attend the event. And one of the best ways, like I said, to do that is to actually go ahead of time when they do to see the people that are around, just check around and see the people that are attending because then you're going to know like are these like a lot of young professionals or is it more families, is it more just like older adults that are grown or whatever, maybe they have grandchildren, maybe they're not interested in that. So just kind of think about your target audience. All right. display essentials. So these are like I feel like a more on the bare minimum side. If you don't have these, like I feel like these are really essentials. There's always like a lot of extras you could do. I mean, you could go like crazy with your booth
Oh
on.
yeah.
But I feel like these are stuff to really think about as the essentials. And then maybe I missed something. But from what I can remember, just like setting up and stuff, these are the stuff that like you always pretty much have to have. So, um, a lot of times you need a table like 6 to 8 feet, depending. Sometimes the event will provide it for you or require that you use theirs. So just keep that in mind. But you probably should have like a folding table, and then a tablecloth. And sometimes you need multiple tables. So like if you have a booth, you could have one table, two tables, even three tables, and you could have different sizing too. Like maybe a round one plus like a long rectangle one. So and tablecloths are actually really inexpensive, like nice quality ones that work well for events on Amazon for like 15-20 bucks. And then you can also go a little bit more and get like a custom imprinted one with like your information, name, logo, whatever on it. Um and there's ones that hang nicely, and then there's ones that like suck into the table. And there's benefits for either one. So I think either one of those types would work well. And then some sort of comfortable seating. You're not necessarily always going to be sitting, but there are like lull times when it's quieter. So you might, you might want to take a break and have like a helper kind of help you out a little bit or something. So having a comfortable place to sit is really important. And again, sometimes they provide seating for you and sometimes they don't. So just good to have that on hand. Now, if you're doing mostly indoor events, you will probably not need a pop-up tent. But if you do any outdoor events, they almost always require to recommend it. So pop-up tent and then usually weights because you can't stake. They don't want a whole bunch of people tearing up the yard or the lawn area. And other times it's on concrete and they don't want holes in their concrete. So you have to have some sort of weights, and there's lots of ways to do the weights, whether it be like water jugs or people have done like the sandbags. I have really nice ones that came with mine that are just like sandbags and they Velcro on. And there's lots of other like creative ways to do weights so that because if there's any wind, you think like the top of the tent is just
Or
like
tornado.
perfect. Just to yeah, or to it's perfect to just whoop and like take off with it. And then not only could that hurt somebody, but it could also damage other people's products, and then you would be liable for that. So good reason to have insurance at certain events in case something like that were to happen, especially outdoors. I feel like indoors insurance is like why, but outdoors I feel like it could be more useful to have insurance. And then you need, of course, a way to display your books and products that you bring. Um, and then
I
having,
actually
yeah,
found a
go
bunch
ahead.
of my shelving when one of the local bookstore, indie bookstore went out of business, and I just went down there and asked them like, "Hey, can I have your shelving?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure, take it." And I loaded up my car, and
Awesome.
so yeah, a bunch of my stuff is free.
Woohoo! That's the best price
Yeah.
when it's free like that. Yeah. So, it's actually, I found it pretty difficult to find display, racks that weren't like either crazy expensive or not portable. So you're definitely gonna have to do some
Yeah.
research to find one that's sturdy too, that's gonna last,
Yep.
because you don't want it to just like I feel like those plexiglass ones and stuff like that. I mean, they're just gonna get scratched up and broken and chipped and so I would either go like with a wire one or some sort of like decently like light but still sturdy wood one. And they have kind of like those options out there, but I wouldn't necessarily go with like the plexiglass one. And you could even as easily do it as just and I'll show you a little you could easily just do it just like a small little almost picture stand that you can see they do that in bookstores where they have one up top and then a stack below. I mean, if that's all you can manage, that's great. Wind will knock these down still, so just, potentially because you get a wind gust, sometimes that can happen. Other ones are like these metal racks I definitely recommend, and they have even one that goes on the floor over here. You just can't see it very well. Um, Those are great as well. If you don't have a lot of books though, this can look a bit empty. So this is a great way to maybe get started, or if you can find a smaller one of these, you just have to kind of see what's out there. So, um, and then, of course, banner signs, including a price sign, is important. Cash box potentially, or like a bag that you keep on your person for your cash. And then I also have my key my square fob to do credit card transactions. I keep that in with my money, so it's all ready to go. And then payment option signs. So it's kind of helpful to let people know, like, because they may go in thinking I don't have that much cash left, and so they might leave not realizing that you can offer credit card and apps and everything else, and then they're like, "Oh, okay, I can purchase from you." So having that sign out there along with your pricing and maybe even QR code, so when they go to pay in your checkout area, they can just scan with the QR code. It makes it really easy and convenient for them. And then of course I think like business cards or freebies with your info. I just ordered 5,000 bookmarks, so I got a pretty good price on them, like I think $100, which is not bad because that's my business
Yeah.
card as well.
Yeah.
So I figured that's not bad. $100 delivered. So or like 110 or something with shipping, but
At like
not bad at
foreign
all.
print or
What's that?
I was gonna ask for what company was that? Was that foreign
Oh,
print?
gotprint.com, I think. So if
Oh,
anybody's interested on a great bookmark option, it's gotprint.com. I did a 2 by 6 inch. I
nice.
did 14 point high gloss UV printing, both sides full color. I mean, it wasn't like I skimped
You
out
did,
either. So
yeah.
yeah, I'll let you know
Not
how
that we're
the
sponsored or
quality
anything.
is once I get the 5,000 of them, and let you know if like I got
Yeah.
scammed or something, but it seemed like a
Right.
legit website. Gotprint.com.
All right.
I looked at a lot of websites, so that's how I know all the specs off the top of my head because
Yeah.
I looked at so many, and like
Yeah.
it's always
Yeah,
fun
you
trying to
do.
find a source. So I'm happy to share that, because
Yeah.
save somebody else headache and hours of research.
Oh man, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely you should offer something with your information. And I thought bookmark instead of a business card because everyone just throws business cards away and they don't take them. They're like,
Yeah.
you know, no thanks. So, you can put a QR code or like have your social media stuff up. So if someone wants to follow you, they'll take a picture, use the QR code, or they'll just follow you right away. But I think something like a bookmark or something else that has your information on that they might actually use. Like some people do magnets or like keychains or those types of things where someone might actually use it as well as have your information, those tend to work better than a business card. So with it being books, that's why I chose bookmark. Did you have anything to add on display essentials, or do you think I covered like the essentials?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's lots more you could do. You can get
Oh yeah.
really fun
Oh
with it.
yeah. You can spend so much money on getting your branding just right and like, yeah.
I'm definitely going to invest in one of these pop-up banners though that's here.
Yes, I have one.
Um, yeah,
It
you
can
like
also
it?
be a wind sail. Yeah.
Yes, you need weights on the bottom.
Yep.
Definitely. And then you can see they've got like a banner in the back. That's always good to have. You can put that in different spots. The back is great, or out front, hanging down as well, a little bit there.
Oh, I guess one other thing I would say is that it's always nice. You want to have such a collection of little clips, and like uh, little anything that'll attach to different kinds of because sometimes your background will be fabric and you're not allowed to pin or and tape won't stick and so oh my gosh I have so many different tiny different kinds of little clips for affixing paper or graphics or signage to I mean you name it to brick backgrounds to fabric drop cloths to
Very good
like
points.
oh my gosh. Yeah. You end up becoming like a little tiny clip collector of like, oh, this is cool. This will affix to, yeah, stucco. I don't have that yet.
Yeah. And I would say too, if you plan to sign your books, you should probably bring the special pens for that, whatever special pen you want to use.
Oh yeah.
I just did some research and I chose Mr. Pin has a great one. Um and that's just what other people had recommended. So, and I liked how it worked, and it dries really quickly and that sort of stuff, and works well for me. But everybody has a different preference. So find which pens that you like and bring multiple of those. So you have them to sign. I think that would probably be one other one I'd even add.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good one.
mm-hmm. Yeah, yours is good points too. Because yeah, I mean, all kinds of like you want to bring masking tape and duct tape
Yeah,
and just
yep.
all those types
Scissors.
of like yeah, scissors, like even like a
Just
little
bring your junk drawer.
lint
Yeah.
roller brush for the tablecloth
Yep.
or wherever else that might need it. Like it's just
Yep.
always nice to have a little kit like that, chapstick and first aid kit, like your stuff that you think you might need at your
Earphone
table.
adapter.
Yeah, and you could always have like a backup battery for your
Oh, yes, I
phone.
do. Yeah, I have a portable battery because I didn't
Yeah.
want to pay internet or not internet. I didn't want to pay electrical fees anymore to have a power cord at my table. So I got a portable battery pack for,
Hmm.
yeah, paid for itself very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, those can be really handy. So those are not necessarily essentials, but these I would say like the next tier up of like really
Yeah.
nice to have and really helpful. Um, so yeah, I mean, like I said, you could go on forever of like the stuff you could bring. And then I think once you start to go to different shows, what I would do is like have a notebook. And then as you think of if something comes up, you're like, oh, I
Mhm.
really could have used that. I then
Yeah.
write it down. And then at the end of the show, do an inventory. What did I not even touch? And like just kind of keep mental notes of that. So then
Mhm.
maybe, another show or two goes by and you still aren't using it. And it's really not one of those essential things that we've talked about, then maybe don't bring it. So like you have less to haul because that like even
Yeah.
like a dolly could be nice depending how far away from parking that your
Yep.
booth is. I mean,
I ended up getting one of those. Yep.
yeah, so like you kind of figure out like what makes sense for your booth setup because maybe you don't need that. Like maybe you're still fine and you don't need that and you just like to carry everything or it's
Maybe
portable
you have
stuff.
big supportive children who
Yeah.
are well into their teens and will help carry
Or
things for
maybe your
you.
bag has wheels, so like you don't really need a dolly. So there's like everybody has their own specialty stuff that might work better for them than others, but you'll kind
Talking
of
to
figure
other,
out and see what other people are doing and
yeah,
oh, I never thought of doing a
yeah.
dolly,
Watching other people taught me a lot. Yep.
Yeah, so definitely go into it like with a learning perspective, because no matter how many times I go, I still am looking around, see what people are doing.
Mhm.
And I'll try to take a few laps around just, on a couple of my breaks if I have a helper to check everything out and just kind of see what people are doing because you can also get ideas of display or whatever. It's a great way to do research. So make sure you go in with that perspective and you'll always continue to improve and get better or just find your groove. So payments. A lot of people aren't sure besides cash, like how to make that happen. And maybe they know about a Venmo or something, but um offering multiple ways to pay is the best way to capture as most customers as possible. Because you can imagine, like I said, if they think, that you don't accept credit card or anything else, and they don't have the cash because they already spent it or they didn't bring it, then they're like, okay, well, like I'll move on because I
Yep.
can't, the stuff's nice and everything, but they can't help me. Um, I can't pay. So if you present all of your payment options like available for them to see, then that can help a lot. Of course, with cash, no processing fees. So,
Mhm.
you could always say prefer cash, but offer, the other stuff. Just make sure to have that change on hand. I would say maybe a couple tens, four fives, and a bunch of ones, like 21s.
Mhm.
And then if you think you might need some change, I would just bring some quarters. I try to price everything that nothing is below $1 anyway, or when not being a whole dollar, not like a 99 cents or anything like that when I go to markets, because I don't want to deal with pennies and all that. So
Right. Yeah.
I can accept those things per se, but I'm not going to like make my pricing or deal with taxes down to the penny. I'll just kind of build that all into the price. And then if I do credit card, then there is a payment fee, so I have to consider that as well, either in the original price or there's ways that you can kind of like increase the price there. Or I charge tax then because I normally don't charge tax on cash, but I do on credit card. So that kind of helps a little bit. So you just have to decide with that. But with credit card, you could do Square And if you can get a referral code, you can get like $20 off your fob, or sometimes you get a free fob, or sometimes your first $1,000 that you charge doesn't have a payment processing fee, and it also helps the person that gives the referral. So if you're interested in that, when I send the email, I'll send my referral code. But otherwise, I really don't know if I'll get any benefit back because it's your first 1,000, and then I may not be charging during that time. So, depending on the time of year. So, but it just kind of helps, because it definitely usually gives something to the person who's getting the new square. I know there's other ones too. Another one that starts with an S, but there are other credit card processing ones. I know with Square, it's like free to sign up, and then before it used to be you get a free fob. Now I don't know if they do a free fob or not to swipe. You kind of plug it into the bottom where your
Did
charging
it?
port is.
Yeah.
So you just have to check and see, but a lot of times it's pretty much free to get going, and then you just pay when you charge, and that's it. So that's really, and they just take it right off the top, and then they give you the rest. And then I really like Square because you can record every sale, including cash, PayPal, Venmo, Zelle. I can record everything, which product sold. It'll give you a report what time of day the different products sold, to give you some insight into that. You can keep inventory. So if I brought,
Yes,
20
I
of this
love that.
book and 25 of that book and 15 of that book and 100 of that book, this many products that I'm selling, whatever. And so then at the end, you can like verify that everything went well, maybe,
Yeah. Yeah,
you
and
didn't
it can
record
help you
something
check,
or,
yeah, what did well, what didn't do well. Maybe you need to order more of this product. Like if you're a chart nerd, Square's got you back. Like,
yeah, so I really like them, because again, you can record everything, and you don't have to do the inventory thing. That's an optional thing, but I find it helpful. And then of course your apps. There's PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, and tons of other ones. So the more that you are set up to offer, the better. And that you offer for their convenience basically. And some of them have where they will charge you a fee and some won't. So it just kind of depends on the app. But definitely I think very important to have. So what products besides your book should you bring? So of course, bring your books, whether you're the author or the illustrator trying to push things, definitely bring your books. If you're the illustrator and you have clearance to do so, or you have other art that you have created, you can bring art prints. I didn't have that listed here, but that's an option as well. Of course, stickers, especially if they're related to the books you're selling or just your art. Bookmarks are great. I've even made bookmarks like upcycled from old books that were gonna get put into the landfill anyway, and I made bookmarks from them, or you can get printed bookmarks, or you can craft your bookmarks, design your own bookmarks. And then there's like creating activity coloring sheets that you can give them away as freebies, or you can actually sell them as like a book. Um, and then creating your characters as either like stuffy friends or crochet or some sort of way to make your characters be in real life. Now, you may want to just have them as examples. So like there's like Got a Toy and a whole bunch of other options out there where you can create just one-off characters in stuffed animal type format. And then you can also go to Etsy and like have them make one for you, or like a crochet character. And then you can just have them on display just to kind of even get like the interest level. Um, and but then when you actually, if you were to go to buy them, like a character, then it would be pretty expensive because you have to usually buy like 500 to 1,000 at a time minimum,
yeah.
and get it shipped typically from wherever, either US or overseas or out of your country. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, that can be kind of cool, especially if you just have them on display. And then there's also like um magnets, t-shirts, keychains, pens. There's other ones too that you can get made on print on demand or your local print shop or wherever you like to do them. Are there any other ones you can think of, Melissa, that I didn't list here?
Oh gosh. I mean, you pretty much got them. I
Like the
guess I've
main
seen
ones. I
artists.
mean, there's obviously
Yeah.
tons
Yeah.
of other ones,
I've
but
seen
ones that I
artists do
think would
like
do well.
cards and prints and yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much yeah.
Yeah. And what people want changes all the time too. So like pens are in right now, but they weren't in like a little while ago, and they probably won't be in a little while from now. So it's just kind of like figuring
Yeah.
out what's interesting for people, what they're interested in. So
Yeah, the more you do these, the more sensitive you'll get to that.
yeah, definitely. So how to get the most out of it. So if you're gonna do the whole like, get a table or a booth at an event and you're gonna put through all of this thinking and process and get your booth display together and invest in that and invest in the actual cost of getting there and spending hours and hours and hours sitting there and like interacting with people and all that. So there's like a lot of time, effort, and money that's going to be put into this. So like how do you get the most out of it so that you can have the best chance of success? Um, one thing again to point out is not every single show will be successful for you. You just have to like know that ahead of time that some of them will be losses and other ones will be big wins and other ones will be like in the middle where you break even or you just make a little bit of profit. So just kind of know that as you're figuring things out and as the market's changing, as there's extenuating circumstances like it being like so incredibly hot this year, for example, that one show, um, it's you just can't predict it all and it's going to be different, but you can at least hedge your bets or like kind of get the best chance of success by choosing your events wisely and of course attracting customers, your target market, plus the dreaded networking and marketing part of it, which I know a lot of authors and illustrators just
My
like
least favorite.
they don't want to do anything with that. So, but unfortunately, that's just kind of like part of the whole thing. I had the benefit of doing like conferences for my past sales jobs and being in sales, which I was not really keen to do, but it just kind of like happened. And then I found that I could like force myself to do it, even though that's not my forte at all, because I'm an introvert. I was so shy when I was younger. Like I'm not like necessarily great with people, like socially or something because I'm just like kind of like I don't know. But somehow I'm able to do it. So I feel if I can do it, it's not easy, but other people can do it because um it's something that you can learn. It's not something you have to just have innately and you can learn it. So if it's learnable, it's doable.
And you
Um
can always role play at home and
mhm,
practice. Especially one of the things that I really struggled with starting out was the soft skill of being able to make conversation with someone while you're ringing up a sale. You
mm,
don't really think about it in advance, but like there is a skill to being able to like continue to make eye contact and talk to somebody while you are navigating your payment app or while you are bagging up their merchandise or while you are making change. And like it's not something that necessarily comes naturally, and it's not something that you think about until you're trying to do it and you're like, oh gosh, I haven't said anything and I'm not looking at them anymore because I'm too busy trying to figure out how to make change from this 20.
the app
And
isn't
they're going to
loading
think
or
I'm
whatever.
ignoring
Yeah.
them. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and you're aware of how awkward it feels, and your
And it may
brain
not
starts
even feel
to,
awkward to them, right? But
yeah,
like sometimes it feels more awkward
yeah,
on to
yeah,
ourselves than it does anybody else, and nobody even cares. So just keep
yeah,
that in mind too.
yep.
So yeah, those are great points. So one way to get the most out of it is choose your events wisely. So what does that mean? What we talked about a little bit, start smaller and work your way up if you are new. Sometimes you don't have that choice, like that big one's coming up and you're like, I just gotta go for it, like this is my chance. I need to push this book or whatever, and I'm just gonna go for it. And that's great. If you have the opportunity, start smaller. Like I said, maybe at a church or just a small community event. It's not big. There's not gonna be tons of like everything going on because that's just gonna like let you get your feet wet, kind of feel more comfortable, kind of understand the process. You're not gonna have a huge cost sunk into it. So you don't have as much pressure on yourself. And I think that pressure can really cause it to be so much more stressful and like hard to do. And so that's why I think you should start smaller if you're able to or when you're able to. Um, consider the details, like how well attended will the event be, the location, the parking situation, if your target market's going to be there, the cost, all those types of things. So all of that's going to be different for each person on what is going to be the most important things that would help you choose it wisely. So I can't say, okay, for everybody, it's going to be location, or everybody's going to be cost, because some people are like, I don't have any problem paying lots of money for it because whatever, cost is not an issue to you. But other people, that's going to be a huge barrier to them to pay $300 for a booth. Other people are like, let's do that $50 local one that's real small.
Yeah.
Like that's all I can manage. That's a lot already. Now, if you ask other local authors and illustrators that you know and trust which events they have attended and recommend, that's a great place to start on like which ones to go to. Because like for me, I have tons in the Columbus, Ohio area, tons of them. And so trying to pick and find the ones that I think might be good for me, especially for what maybe my specific niches, it's going to be really difficult. So having somebody else that can help guide you a little bit or help narrow that down could be really helpful, or just to know about ones that maybe aren't as well like known to you just because you're just starting to get into it. So, um, that's great. And I know like scbwi .org, they have local chapter meetings for a lot of people. And so
Mhm.
then you can meet local authors and illustrators, and then other places have like art councils that could potentially help you with that. And there's other like other art organizations, not for profits, or those types of things in your area that you should probably get connected with anyway, and then they could potentially help you. Um, and then staying local and small can make it easier for friends and family to show up to support you if you're nervous. So like having a friendly face come to your booth or your table is like the best.
Oh yeah.
It's
Oh
like,
yeah, especially
yeah.
if for whatever reason you're having one of those events where nobody is coming to your table and everybody around you is busy talking to someone and you're just standing there silently by yourself, having
Yeah.
a friend or family member show up so that you're not just totally alone and bugging out in your head.
Hmm.
A huge thing.
Yeah, it's a huge morale boost for sure. And a lot of times they'll support you too. Not always, and that's fine. But if they do, like it just, it's not even the money. It's just that they're like supporting you. And then other people see, oh, look, some people are buying something there. And then what's over there? So sometimes that can help attract more people as well. Yeah, so definitely. And then if you can get somebody to come be there with you as well, it's really helpful. But just to having them, to trade off and watch the booth for you and stuff while you take
Yeah.
breaks.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Thankfully I have a decent bladder, but it's like some, you gotta go to the
Yeah.
bathroom sometimes. And
Yeah.
sometimes they're all day, so you just gotta,
Man, though I have had other artists like be like, "Hey, you've been there all day by yourself. Do you need a bathroom break? And I'll watch your table for you." And sometimes
yeah.
people are awesome that way, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you don't maybe want to count on the generosity of strangers.
Yeah, no. And sometimes the event will have people to help relieve you, but it's kind of hard sometimes to get a hold of them to like come
Yeah.
do that. So yeah, just kind of keep that in mind that it's better if you can bring somebody with you, but I find it can be difficult to do. But maybe they can just come for part of the day even because it can be a lot for like
Yeah.
the whole day.
Yeah.
Um, so, of course, small local fairs are likely to have cheaper table fees, which means you can turn a profit faster, rather than having to overcome $300. Because you think about if, say, your product costs $5 and you're selling for 10, which is a typical turnaround of marking it up 100% like that. Which means if your table booth costs $300, which means you need to make like three times that cost in order to make a profit, because you have to think half of your sales price is cost right off the bat.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You
I
got to
mean
sell a lot of magnets.
yeah, and if you're selling your magnets for like $1 or
Yeah.
$3, like that's 100 magnets just
Yeah.
to break even with the booth amount for sales quantity, not even profit. So
Yeah.
yeah, think about what you're selling. Have you built up enough people in the area that's going to come? Like a following, how well are you going to be able to advertise? What kind of products are you bringing? Will that profit be enough? How many are you likely to sell? So usually like if an event is like gonna maybe bring 100,000 people, you can maybe count like 1% at most buying, I heard, or something like that. Is that correct, Melissa? It's like 1% of the total is
Yeah,
a
as a
rough
general
guesstimate,
guideline, but
but
I suckered
who knows?
myself into paying a really high table fee and all of the bells and whistles fees for a really big convention that
Mhm.
promised huge turnout like that. And it was a stinker for me. I
Yeah.
lost a lot of money on it. So
Yeah, so even if there's like 10,000 people and then 1% of that, that would be a lot, I think, to do. So let's see. So 1,000 times 1 or it would be 10,000 times 1%. So that'd be 100 people buying from you. So that would probably be, I would say, that would be, I would think kind of hard to hit to have 100 customers
Yeah.
when you're first starting out. Like maybe as you
Yeah.
kind of get figured out and you kind of know what you need to do and you figured out how to bring people in your booth. So just consider like based on the people expected to attend, and maybe 100 people come by your booth for sure, but not
Yeah.
necessarily 100 people buy. So I think that might be 1% coming by your booth is definitely realistic,
Yeah.
but 1% buying I think is less realistic. I feel like it's less than that. Um,
Yeah.
and then you may not have a lot of shows locally. I mentioned because Melissa made a good point of they didn't survive the pandemic. So if you're
Yeah. I
in
had
a
two that
smaller
I loved.
area, yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
I had two that I loved that I did for years, and both of them didn't survive the pandemic, and
Mm,
I still miss them. I'm still sad.
yeah. Yeah, so if you're in an area that maybe has less options, like Columbus, Ohio has like so many options and other places might have less, don't just go to an event just because it's an event. Definitely still consider to choose it wisely. But if you do find an event that pops up that works for you, then you think it would be a wise choice, then go ahead and jump on that. And then Melissa made a suggestion to help out with smaller shows, and then you could network the organizers and get connected with future opportunities. So if it's like a company or organization that organizes different shows, of the same type, then maybe you can hop on some of their other ones because you'll know about
Yeah.
it.
With the one that I specifically was thinking of, it was a comic convention that started in my town that I was living in at the time. And they were just starting out. They didn't even have a logo or any branding or anything. So I was like, hey, I will happily help you, come up with that. And it ended up being great self promotion for me because suddenly it was like my art and my graphic design everywhere for this convention, which was
Nice.
fantastic. And they ended up liking that idea so much that they picked a local artist every year going forward to kind of try and help that person out. So
That's awesome.
it ended up being a great, like mutually helpful situation for us. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, let's see. So attracting customers. So one of the things is that if you sit back in your booth on your phone, reading a book, whatever, you're just not really putting yourself out there, and that could mean that you're missing out on a lot of people coming into your booth. So when possible, um, and especially if you're having a lull, then it would be best to get out in front of your booth or table. Now, sometimes at like certain like say book fairs, it's like wall to wall tables. There's no way to get out in front, so I'm not saying to jump over your table or anything. But if you're in like a situation where you have like your own little space and you can get out in front, then as the people walk by, then you can, easily more like talk with them and pull them in, ask them questions, you know, um, and just promote yourself and your books and your products. So, for example, like if you're at a book fair, you might just, as they're walking in front, strike up a conversation with them. And then if you're at like more of like we have uh like a um tent outside or like a 10 by 10 foot area inside, and then you can be out more towards the aisleway, or even if you position yourself so that you are allowing people to kind of walk in and have a space to shop, but so they're not like you're not like on top of them, but that you can kind of catch people who are walking by, because a lot of times and maybe they're distracted, they're taking a bite of food, like something depends on the type of event that you go to, if they're like eating and stuff, and so they might be looking to the left and you're to the right. So if you're like, oh, hey, how you doing today? And so that gets them to look. And then you could maybe have like you could think about some hooks, lines or questions that you can kind of bring in and say, would you like to support a local author today? Or, I'm a local author and I'm doing book signing today. Or, would you like to meet a local author? You could also say, do you have any kids or grandkids? Or would you like to donate a book today? I mean, these are really basic ones, so definitely be more creative than I am right now. But just kind of think about like what would help bring your target audience in? Because it might be different for you than it would be for me of like who your target audience and how they, what would be the best thing to get them to respond. And just strike up a lot of people are really nice, at least here in the Midwest. I mean, I don't know, maybe maybe that's not as apropos as some other places. Like you have different kind of like social normities there, but at least in the Midwest, like people are super friendly and they'll a lot of times at least say hi and maybe they don't say anything, but they're not gonna be mean to you. And a lot of times they'll talk with you. So yeah, it's just a great way to like, you know, just humanize yourself and get their attention and maybe pique their interest. And then it's down to like some of that small talk that Melissa was talking about of, just asking them kind of questions like, oh, how are you? It's a beautiful day today, or, how's it been going for you today? Or maybe it's getting close to Christmas, or you're like, oh, I bet you're ch probably, finding some great stuff today for Christmas. How's that going? So just kind of think about some things that you can talk about that's relevant to like the event or show or time um that you are presenting during, and so that way you can kind of bring people into your booth because that's going to be really important. Of course, having a well displayed booth is also important too. um Something that would be attractive and bring them in, colorful, or like this person has like these kind of like mermaid sparkly tablecloth here. Some people have like the flag banners, that have like the different multicolored flags or tassels and stuff, or you have big banners and signs, different things that will draw people in to your booth. Some people do like giveaways. So they're doing like Plinko or some sort of something that's like interactive and will um kind of get people to come over to your booth. I plan on doing it. One of mine is to have a little table set up where the kids can come and color free coloring sheets and stuff or activity pages so that, because that's my
Yeah,
target market,
yeah.
right? It's the kids.
Mhm.
And so that's one of my plans is to kind of do that. Or maybe you could do a free craft that the kids will sit down and do. So yeah, just kind of think outside the box, get fun with it because you're doing children's books. So like that's great because you
Yeah,
can be really creative and think about like attracting families, So how can you do that? Those big cardboard cutouts of your characters is great because kids are attracted to that as well as the stuffy friends and stuff, but they're attracted to those things. Like they will just, because a lot of times at these events, it could be that there's a lot of like signs and things that like grown-ups like, right? It's like a craft market fair or something where there's just like a lot of like grown-up stuff and there's not necessarily a lot of kid stuff. So then of course the kids are very, oh, finally something I can really like. So depending on the type of market. Do you have any tips or anything about attracting customers to ask?
only when you're aiming for kids, keeping things at their eye level is helpful
Mhm.
too. We tend to think of things and position things as relates to where an adult would look and see, but for younger audiences, don't be afraid to have stuff, at 3 or 4 foot height.
Yeah, like they have these books off to the right here lower, and then these ones are also the table's got to be like um I don't know what, probably like 2.5 feet high.
Yeah.
So this would be at your 3 foot height here in the front and them being the same. You definitely want to use your vertical space because that also helps attract the eyes of the adults because they're the ones paying, right? But then that's a
Yeah.
great point to have things lower as well, for sure. Great point for sure. Let's see. And then the dreaded network and marketing. So marketing, it starts as soon as you are approved for the booth or table or event or whatever. So once you get approved and you're all set to go, then you should start thinking about how you're going to post about it on social media, how you're going to get the word out. Maybe you create events. So there are Eventbrite and different types of event things that are free, Facebook events. I think even LinkedIn has events. You can do all sorts of, you put on your website, if you have an event page on your website, which you probably should. Um, just get the word out there, start posting about it ahead of time. And then, of course, as you get really close to it, start posting about it more often. So that's going to be really important. Now, usually the event itself is going to market. And so you can, of course, follow them on social media and repost their stuff, interact with their posts. Mention, oh, I'm so excited I'm going to be there. Like here, you can check out my stuff ahead of time. Just try to really get yourself out there in the event that they're posting as well, because they're going to have hopefully they're hitting your target audience. And so that's definitely really important. And then there's marketing in terms of um the marketing at your booth that we've already talked about. So that's going to be important, doing the banners, the pop-up sign, or doing the cutout of your character and like cardboard cutout, or doing the stuffy friends, or having bright, colorful things, having things down at the eye level of kids. All those different types of things is part of marketing. And then of course afterward, also using pictures from the event and everything like that, maybe during the event, taking videos and pictures that you're posting to get people to come there that day, as well as afterward to kind of like have more things to, because if you have a website and you sell your product there, like just because it's after the event doesn't mean you can't use that to get potentially additional sales afterward. And then networking. So there's the networking to talk with authors and illustrators to know which events to go to. There's the networking to try to get with organizers of events that Melissa used to have that angle as well. And then there's networking while you're there. So when you're at say a book fair and there's a whole bunch of authors and illustrators, that's a great time to network. You're all there. So the ones that are around you, or maybe as you're setting up, or if you go visit them, you could talk with them a little bit, especially if there's a lull period. Try to be really respectful because obviously you want to give them space for their customers and stuff. So maybe there's a little bit of a lull period and then you have someone watch your booth.
Setups and breakdowns.
Oh yeah, during the breakdowns as well. Sometimes there's depending on the type of event, like I know my book fair also had like different speaker events,
Mhm.
where you can kind of like, get to network some people in the room. Um, yeah, I mean, there's like different conferences, events, fairs, markets are all going to have different opportunities for networking. So definitely plan ahead of time. Maybe, even if another author illustrator is going to be there, then you say, okay, let's get coffee afterward or something, especially if it's like you have to drive an hour to get there or something. You're not always there at the same area as they are. Um, plan on getting together for dinner or whatever, or coffee afterward, or I don't know. I know I'm always exhausted afterwards. I don't know if that would be ideal
Yeah.
for me, and usually you have to go there very early in the morning oftentimes. There are ones that are a little bit later, but they're often like super, super early to be there to set up. So, but just try to get connected, especially if you're going to like a conference type of place, because usually it's like multiple days, and so then usually there's at least some times to catch, dinner and stuff. Whereas sometimes the events are one day and it's like a lot more intense because you're like setting up and breaking down the same day. It's the whole day, like there's just not a lot of
Yeah.
time. So, but just, try and see if you can connect with people, because that's so important. Again, we're isolated as we're writing or illustrating. We're working by ourselves typically, and so these are great opportunities to connect with other people in the industry and build those relationships. You never know where they're going to take it. Plus, there's things that you can help them with, they can help you with, and that's just a great camaraderie. So it's not always easy. Most of the time, it's not easy, and
Yeah.
it's actually often fun though. Once I do it, it's usually really
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. I
I
usually get the convention high while, and I'm like,
yeah,
this is amazing. I'm so glad I came out and did this. And then I have to like sleep it off for a few
the
days after.
social battery is at like a negative
Yeah.
20, and you're like, I'm done for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Now back to my cave.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people are introverts that write and illustrate, and so that just means that you are drained from energy when you're with people. It doesn't mean you don't like people. That's a whole other story, but it just means that when you're around people, even if you like it, it drains your energy, whereas an extrovert gets energy from being around other people. So if
Yeah.
you're the introvert type, that means you might need peace and quiet and you need to hole up in your cave, like she said, and just have some recuperation time, reading books or relaxing, playing games, whatever, you like to do. And that's how you recharge. And maybe you're really excited and you're writing or illustrating because you're like so inspired. That could be too. But that's like your recharge time. And then your social battery could be ready to go for the next time. But just keep that in mind when you're scheduling these things, depending on your personality type. And once you start going, you'll know if you end up, regardless, you could just be exhausted because it's a lot of work. Um,
Yeah,
if
it is.
you might need not schedule anything then that evening, the next day,
Yeah.
give yourself some grace afterward for sure.
Especially
Um,
because, like, I don't know, I would often catch something after the convention too. And it's like, all right,
a
so I've
lot of
done a
people.
convention. And then a few days later, it's like, oh, and there it is. And now I'm sick.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely do your best to stay away from the germs, but I mean,
I know.
conventions
Yeah.
especially are a lot of people in an enclosed
Yep.
space. So,
Yep.
outdoor conventions, I feel like that's less so the case because you got, the fresh air and everything, moving things around. But yeah, really, really crowded indoor ones can be that way. But yeah, just try not to get sick,
Yeah.
but at
It
least
just is what it
downtime
is.
to recharge the
Yep.
social battery, to recoup from the physical part of it, because it doesn't seem like it'd be physical, but it really is. I don't
Yeah.
know what it is. It's
Standing for hours, having to lug your stuff in and out, the setups and breakdowns. And yeah, it's more physical than, I mean, I guess, yeah. Or maybe I'm just a weakling. I find it exhausting.
I think it is, and well, plus I'm an introvert, so it's going to be exhausting
Yeah.
regardless. But then also like this last one, it was in the heat, and the heat always drains my
Yeah.
energy. So yeah,
Yeah.
that really took it out of me. So, um,
Yeah.
all right, is there anything else that you wanted to add, Melissa, that you think was important that we didn't cover?
I can't think of anything. I feel like we've covered pretty much, yeah.
We covered it all. So, we have some upcoming ones. Now, this one got bumped, so that's the wrong date there because it's today. But the next one's coming up on November 19th, How to Get Started as an Illustrator. December 10th, I wrote a book, Now What? So this is great for illustrators or authors wanting to be an illustrator, artists wanting to be, that do like fine art or like other types of art, and then now they want to be a children's book illustrator because there are some specialized kind of things to know about the kidlit industry, being an illustrator, like illustrating for children's books, as well as like business wise that we're going to go over. So I'm really excited about that because there's a lot of we manage or help moderate a large I think it's like over 210, 220,000, 215. I can't remember, like over
That name
200,000 people in that group. And I see it all the time. Like, hey, I want to get started as an illustrator. Like, what do I
yeah.
do? How does this
How do
work?
I get started? Yep.
Yeah, and so we see that question a lot. So I'm really excited to have that to do that one. And the other one of the other really big ones is I wrote a book, now what? Like what are the next steps? Because
Yeah.
when I got started in the kidlit industry, I felt like I was drinking through a fire hose. And when I try to share about the kidlit industry, I feel like I'm making them drink through a fire hose. So it's like just there's just so much. There's so much.
Yeah.
So it can be really overwhelming and confusing and just like there's a lot of scams and frauds, which we already
Oh
covered
boy, yeah.
in August. So if you want to like know about that, definitely check out the August one about frauds and scams. But there's just like so much out there that there's just so much information to tell that it's a lot. So
Yeah.
hopefully we'll break it down and make it not so overwhelming. Plus, you can always catch the recording afterward to rewatch certain things that you weren't able to digest during the first time through.
Take the
But
fire hose at your speed.
yeah, little tidbits maybe. But we would love for people to actually come to these two ones. I know it's tough during the middle of the day, but if you can manage it because I we want to answer your questions. We want to be able to there's going to be I feel like a lot of questions that people have. And if you cannot attend, feel free to email us as well. Mine is mandahswift@gmail.com. That's MANDAHSWIFT@gmail.com. I think I have it in the next slide here. Um, well, here's my web address, mandahswift.com, and my contact page will have that on there. But yeah, if you want to contact me and put your question out ahead of time, feel free to do that. Because that way we can make sure to get that answer, whether you come or not. We would really appreciate you would come. But regardless, one way or another, I'd love to get those questions specific to actual authors and illustrators answered. So we really look forward to doing those two, and we'll have more next year. We haven't really come up with what they're going to be. So if you have any topics that we haven't covered that you would love, or maybe there is a specific part of a topic that you feel like we really need to go deeper into, um, then yeah, um, definitely let us know so that we can kind of plan next year out, um, and know what topics we're going to cover that's going to be important to you guys. So thank you so much for watching, and feel free to reach out to us with any questions or comments or feedback. And we look forward to seeing you next month.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Good on time, too.